Hey everybody, welcome to Whiskey Whistle. I'm the host of the show, Mark, and you're watching Whiskey Review number 176. A nice one from the Macallan, a very unusual one that's not readily available in the rest of the world. This was something that came out around 2011, mainly for the Asian market, dubbed the 1700 series. This one is known as the President's Edition. So let's get that poured. Now, it's a non-age stated whiskey, a non-age stated Scotch single malt. However, being Macallan, we know that this is natural in color, as that is one of their promises to their customers, to their shoppers, to their buyers. Color-wise, we're looking at something that is beyond just gold. This is heading towards a bronzy kind of a color. So quite a nice rich tone, which tells you there's a lot of sherry involved here. I don't think it's much older than 12, 13, 14 years old, something like that. It's pretty well matured. It's not quite in the older matured sort of range of flavors, but very nicely matured for what it is. 40% ABV in the Macallan glass. Now, it seems as though the Macallan, because of their prestige, also get the cream of the crop from other businesses when they need something. So this Glencairn, actually, it's probably my best one. It has the smoothest surface, and so there's virtually no sticking onto the sides of the glass for anything in here. So that's really interesting. I should probably, I don't know, scour it or something. Should I, or should I leave it? I guess I'll just leave it, because you can't see legs in this glass, so that's really interesting. My only glass that does that. Let's have a look at the box really quickly. On the front here, I'll bring that up close to you. It says, the Macallan's President's Edition. Powerful presidents will appreciate this whiskey's remarkable intensity and depth. So have a look at that. Even the marketing, even the language seems rather suited for the Asian market. All this junk over here. The 1700 series from the Macallan is a range of single malts for those who demand and appreciate the finest in life. The whiskies, hand-selected at the peak of maturity by the Macallan whiskey maker, are both rich in color and complex in flavor. Then it talks about Easter Elchies and the location of the Macallan, and some tasting notes, which I'm not going to read. I'll avoid reading them. 40% ABV. This is actually a smaller bottle, in case you're wondering. That's a 500 milliliter bottle, 50 cl. That's a nice size if two people are going to kind of have at it at a bottle of whiskey in a night. That's just about enough to enjoy your night, maybe over 4 or 5 hours, and you'd probably finish the bottle. Anyway, so what is this whiskey? Well, I believe that it is a mix of sherry and also, I think also a little bit of bourbon casks as well, but predominantly sherry. It really doesn't say much of anything on the front or on the back of the bottle. Anyway, so it could be all sherry, but with some American oak, kind of like the new, what is it called, 12-year-old double oak or whatever it is. It could be something like that, or possibly even like the triple woods, the 3-wood, the fine oak series. Okay, well, let's get on to the nosing. Then we'll taste it. We'll tell you what it tastes like, and we'll talk about the finish, and we'll give it a score, and then we'll wrap it up. We're going to keep this one rather short today. All right, so the nose. Sherry, but also very spicy. So big sherry component. Really reminds me of the 12-year-old sherry, and yet it's got this this spice, sort of a kick to it. And a little bit of caramel is coming through here. A little bit of orange also. So some flavors that are not some scents that are not really quite congruent with just their standard sherry matured range. Now, from my notes, I spent a lot of time with this and quite a lot of research. So I've done about 300 milliliters of research with this bottle. Very tasty research. And one of the cool things that I found is that I get a candy flavor. Now I do get a lot of candy with Macallan. This one in particular, I got Humbugs, which is an interesting hard candy that you might get around Christmas, but I think they're available all year round. Anyway, so really nice. And some stick candy, lemon iced sugar cookies, dates, fruit Turkish delight, not the rose, but the fruit flavored ones, and a bit of menthol, menthol and ice cream. Okay, well, interesting. My illegible notes. I think I need to improve that, don't I? With time, you will get much more easy smelling candy, gummy bears, some kind of a herbal caramel kind of scent coming from it if you spend enough time with it. All right, let's get on to the nose. Let's get on to the palate. Cheers, everyone. You get that sherry sweetness with all of those dried fruits, but you also get a lot of spice, a bit of pepper even, lots of sherry, a little bit of, I think I wrote here, bakery, a little bit of bakery. So a little bit different from the regular Macallan standard flavor profile. Fruit glazed white cake. Fruit glazed white cake. Gummy candies, Swedish berries, and a dark cherry reduction. Yes, I taste the cherries. Really nice. Kind of like what you would be putting, say, in a cherry pie. And then with time, I get much more of the sherry influence coming through. And I wrote here, figs, both dark and golden raisins. The finish is actually surprisingly long for something that's NAS that, some people would say, well, it's NAS, so therefore it's 3 years old. Because that's the minimum for Scotch whiskey. So if they don't tell you, then all you can say is that, well, it's at least 3 years old, which is true in a sense. But you have to let your tongue do the tasting. Anyway, let the whiskey do the walking. All right. So the finish, very long, vanilla pod ice cream with a hot plum pudding, kind of a syrup drizzled on top. Raisin croissants, so croissants with raisins in them, and yeah, it goes quite a long way. It gets a bit dry as it trails off, as do a lot of the sherry influence, the sherry bombs, the sherry monsters that people love. Now, I'd want to smell that side by side with the 12, but the nose is really a dead ringer for the 12-year-old sherry wood. I think I've got a little bottle of it right here, in fact. Kind of hard to smell the nose from such a small bottle, though. Wonder if I can do something. What the heck? I'm going to pour it in a little glass. All right. Not too much, though. I need that for more future Macallan reviews. This is kind of like the litmus for Macallan. If it smells older than that, then you know that it's beyond 12 years old. And the sherry also, this is 100% European sherry oak. Okay, so there's the 12-year-old. I'll set that right aside. Color-wise, this is definitely a darker color. So one would want to think that since it's natural in color, then that means this is older. It could also mean a different kind of sherry being used, or the cask just having a little bit more sherry in it, or perhaps even the cask is younger, so the time spent in it was younger than that. It was less time spent in the sherry. The sherry spent less time in the cask, and then the wood has more influence. But anyway, we're talking about the nose here, so. It has a much richer nose than this. So that, again, that's what makes me think that it's probably around about 15 years old or so. At least 13 anyway. But I think you need a lot more than 13 to hit that hue using the same casks as this. Alright, anyway, little experiment. Alright, so that's the pure sherry. No, none of that bakery type of flavor. It's all fruit. Very little spice. Hint of cinnamon in there. But that's the package there you're getting with the 12. This one, a much bigger nose. And then because of the mix of casks, flavors that are beyond just that sherry matured range of flavors. Alright, time to add some water. It packs a pretty good punch for 40%. And it's really interesting that some whiskeys at 40% taste very anemic, and yet others actually taste quite robust. And I think that comes down to things like how quickly the distillate was made, how fast, how quickly they distilled it. You can run the still hotter and make the process take less time if you want. It may also have to do with the fermentation process. Longer fermentation apparently leads to more fruity flavors. Okay, so now with water, just a little bit of water. And it's much more perfumey. A little bit less fruit and a little bit more spice. It reminds me much more of the double cask now with water. The dried fruits are still there. The fruits are kind of like a compote, but a little bit more influenced by cinnamon and caramel, a little bit of vanilla coming through. And in the background, I know a lot of people laugh at me when I say this, but there's just that little hint of peat lurking, starting to arise, starting to come up in the background. Just a hint. And if you're noticing the little collection I've got going behind me here, you'll see a Macallan over here, the 15-year-old fine oak. And I don't know if you've tried that, but that really does have a peat that is potent beyond just that kind of simmering subtle peat that you get, but actually a potent peat coming through. All right, onto the palate. Cheers again. Totally, just this this pot of simmering fruits. Much juicier. It might be just slightly sharper with water. And I also noticed that a little hint of peat coming through in the palate even. And the finish with water. As I smack my lips here, I'm getting some apricot, ripe plums, still that hint of peat, quite a bit of a faint dry quality, and much as though some of the other whiskeys I've talked about of late, when you swallow it, you get that sort of well, ether. I can't think of another better word for this. An ethereal sort of a reflux of flavors coming up through your nose again. So really seems to dwell on the palate quite strongly. Anyway, really enjoyable. So let's get right to the scoring then, okay? For the Macallan 1700 series President's Edition, that's what it's called, right? President's Edition. The Whiskey Whistle whiskey score for this one is going to be 89 out of 100. That's right, 89 out of 100. That's the Whiskey Whistle whiskey score for the Macallan President's Edition. And I write a really well-balanced Macallan full of surprises. What surprises? A little bit of peat, a little bit of bakery, a little bit of extra flavors, and yet a very strong amount of sherry influenced flavors there as well. All right, so that's that for the Macallan President's Edition. Hope you enjoyed that. Stay tuned. There are many more wonderful whiskeys to come here on the channel. If you haven't subscribed, why not do so? You can click a link right over here, and I'll put a little arrow going like this to get you to press that. So please do that. That'll help me a lot. And why not leave a comment? Tell me what you think of this. I know there are a lot of Koreans in Korea who have this at home, or have tried it, or have bought it recently. It's still available in and around the local Seoul places where you can pick up a bottle. Okay, so if you want to know where to get one, you can contact me. I might be able to guide you. And anyway, if you're in Japan, or if you're in Singapore, in China, I'm sure that some of the Macallan fans have tried this, and I think that you probably like it as much as I do. So let me know what you think, and we'll see you for the next one, okay? Take care now. Goodbye. Oh yeah, that was nice. That was...